Discover the heartwarming meals that kept 10,000 people thriving in medieval castles during winter. In the heart of Maplewood, winter held the world in its icy grip. Snowflakes danced down like confetti, painting the town in shades of white. Yet for Emma, the cold wasn't just a physical barrier. It was a reminder of the warmth that once filled her life. As a determined single mother, she trudged through the biting chill, her heart heavy with the weight of her husband's sudden departure. With 2 children to care for, each day felt colder and more isolating than the last. Emma often found herself spiraling into memories of her grandmother's kitchen, the heart of family gatherings overflowing with love, laughter, and the rich aroma of homemade meals. Those cherished moments felt like distant echoes now, and the search for food at local pantries felt increasingly like a cruel reminder of her inadequacies. Standing in line, she felt the sting of shame, a sharp contrast to the warmth she longed for. As Emma rummaged through old family heirlooms one evening, hoping to find something, anything to lift her spirits, she stumbled upon a dusty, yellowed recipe book. Its pages held secrets and stories of meals that had once transformed Maplewood. Inspired, Emma envisioned a community dinner, a chance to breathe life back into the heart of the town, the old community center where generations had shared joy, sorrow, and countless meals. She knew it wouldn't just be about feeding bellies. She yearned to mend frayed connections among neighbors struggling against their own storms. Yet the town's veterans, proud and self-reliant, scoffed at her plans. These dinners are a band-aid on a gaping wound, they argued. Emma stood her ground. If she could create even a moment of laughter and understanding, she had to try. But then, the forecasts warned of a fierce snowstorm, a tempest that threatened to stop Maplewood in its tracks. The storm swept in, and the winds howled like banshees. But something magical happened. People emerged from their homes, drawn together by necessity. They gathered, hesitant yet curious, cramming into the community center as Emma set the tables. Together, they faced their skepticism, and as she ladled her grandmother's famous stew into bowls, a hush fell. The first bite sparked something, shared smiles, laughter mingled with stories of heartbreak and hope. Emma's heart swelled, each plate connecting souls as they uncovered dreams they thought were lost. "What if what we're missing is each other?" she asked, her voice a whisper against the crackling warmth. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as understanding began to swirl like the snow outside, a loud crash interrupted. Heavy branches fell, their burden a metaphor for Maplewood's struggles. Emma felt the weight of their eyes as she stood before them, poised to lead but unsure of the path. The storm raged on, a fierce reminder that change wouldn't come easy. Amidst laughter and broken barriers, would it be enough to forge a new sense of community in a town battling the cold? Emma steadied her breath, her heart racing with possibility and despair, knowing that the hardest part of this journey was yet to unfold. As the wind howled outside, the community center buzzed with a mix of nervous energy and fragile hope. Emma glanced around the room, her heart pounding in her chest as she saw the faces of her neighbors. Some were familiar, others were strangers, but all looked as weary as she felt. The initial awkwardness was tangible, thick in the air like the steam rising from the pots of stew. She took a deep breath and smiled at the gathering. "Let's not let the storm keep us from connecting," she said, her voice steady yet warm. "Tell stories while you eat, share memories. This is about more than just food." Slowly, conversations began to break out like the sun peeking through clouds. An elderly man recounted tales of the old Maplewood, of winters when neighbors helped each other, and laughter echoed in homes adorned with twinkling lights. A mother spoke of her struggles, echoing Emma's own challenges. And suddenly, the ice began to thaw, not just in the room, but in each heart. As laughter replaced uncertainty, Emma moved from table to table, soaking in the joy of connection. She encouraged people to share not just their meals, but their burdens too. Stories flowed, tales of love lost, dreams deferred, but also tales of resilience and the quiet victories fought each day. First, there were hesitant smiles. Then came vulnerability wrapped in acceptance. But the storm still raged outside, and deep down Emma knew the impact of these moments might be fleeting. Would the warmth last when the sun returned? She glanced out the window, watching the vicious winds lash against the community center, and felt a flicker of doubt. Yet just as she began to lose herself in those thoughts, a small voice broke through. Mia, her 6-year-old daughter, tugged at her sleeve, her eyes wide. "Mom, can I tell a story?" Emma knelt, eyes level with Mia's bright gaze. "Of course, sweetheart. Everyone would love to hear from you." The room quieted as Mia climbed onto a chair, her tiny frame silhouetted against the glow of the flickering lights. "Once upon a time," she began, and the spellbinding quality of her innocence wrapped itself around everyone, erasing the worries and fears of adult life, if just for a moment. As Mia spun her simple tale of friendship, which oddly mirrored the struggles they all faced, the community center pulsed with renewed energy. A little girl just wanting to share her piece of happiness reminded everyone why they were gathered. With their collective hands held in heartwarming connection, they became something more than individuals carrying burdens. They were a community united by shared experiences, ready to stand together against the storm and the struggles it brought. When Mia finished, the eruption of applause sent a swell of warmth through Emma, and she felt the flicker of hope reigniting within her. "Look at us, building bridges," she said, her voice quivering with emotion. "Together, we can rise above this cold." But then, just as the laughter resumed, the lights flickered ominously for a moment before fading into darkness. Gasps filled the air, uncertainty creeping back in, cloaking them in shadow. Emma's heart raced at the sudden change, but she was determined not to let fear back in. "Stay close, everyone," she called out, her voice cutting through the dimness. "We can still keep the light alive." Outside, the storm continued its fury, but within the community center, Emma felt the powerful pulse of connection beating against the odds. As they gathered around candles and made the best of the sudden, unexpected darkness, she took a breath, knowing that their journey had only just begun. How long could the shared light last? What other challenges awaited them in the storm outside? Emma's spirits surged as she vowed to protect the connections they had forged. But deep down, she feared that if the storm didn't let up soon, even the strongest bonds could start to unravel. Emma scanned the room, illuminated by flickering candles, the soft glow casting dancing shadows against the walls. Faces once anxious and withdrawn now glimmered with newfound determination, yet the darkness still felt heavy. Even as lighted candles fluttered, the chill seeped in from the outside, a relentless reminder of the storm aiming to fracture their collective spirit. From her spot, she caught a glimpse of Mr. Hargrove, the elderly storyteller, sitting at the edge of the gathering. His hands trembled slightly as he fumbled with the glow of his own candle, eyes glimmering with both sadness and resolve. Emma remembered his tales, how they brought laughter and warmth. She decided it was time to invite him back into the spotlight. "Mr. Hargrove," she called, her voice firm yet inviting, "would you share another story with us?" A hesitant smile broke across his face as the room turned expectantly toward him. "Ah, well, I suppose I can try," he said, his voice quaking slightly. He cleared his throat and began recounting an old folktale of a brave knight who, despite a fierce winter storm, journeyed to find warmth for his village. As he spoke, the room leaned in closer, lost in the world of chivalry and courage. Emma watched the faces around her, each person wrapped in the warmth of hope his story ignited. Yet, amid the smiles and inspiration, a lingering doubt gnawed at her. Would they still have strength once the lights returned? Once the storm was over? The fear settled in the pit of her stomach, cold and heavy. Just then, Mia curled up against her mother, sensing the tension in the air. She whispered, "Mom, what if the night never comes back?" Emma's heart sank. Children ask the hardest questions. "But sweetheart," she replied softly, "that's what makes us brave, knowing we can stay strong even when the night is gone." She wrapped her arm protectively around Mia, shielding her from the unwelcome chill of worry that threatened to creep in. As Mr. Hargrove finished his tale, applause erupted, echoing off the walls. Emma beamed at Mia, who clapped enthusiastically, her innocence shining through. "See, we're all together," Emma reassured her. "We just need to believe in each other. That's how we will get through this." But as the applause dimmed, another gust of wind rattled the windows, a stark reminder of the storm beyond their walls. The wail of the wind seeped back into the hearts of the gathering, pulling at their collective hope. Emma felt a pang, a question lingering just beneath the surface. What if they weren't strong enough? Suddenly, a voice broke through the crowd. "We can do this! We won't let the storm win!" It was Jacob, a local teenage boy, standing confidently among them. His enthusiasm rippled through the room, just when doubt threatened to overwhelm. "Let's share more stories. Let's show this storm what we're made of," he declared, his eyes alight with conviction. Nods of agreement followed, and Emma felt the shift in the atmosphere again. They could do this. They could forge bonds strong enough to withstand even the fiercest storm. Still, as the wind howled, a tension lingered, and Emma felt it, a crack in her heart that was hard to mend. Would their collective strength last? Could they truly hold on through the night? Determined not to lose momentum, she rallied the energy of the room. "Who will join Jacob? Let's keep our stories going." As voices started to rise around her, Emma's eyes stayed focused on the flickering flames. But in the back of her mind, another chilling thought nagged. How long before even the strongest hearts could dim? And just then, a loud crash echoed from outside, loud enough to silence their stories. Emma's breath caught in her throat. What could that have been? She instinctively tightened her hold around Mia, the shadows closing in again, but her heart raced with fear and raw curiosity. What danger faced them next? Would they be able to withstand the rattling winds of the storm, or was this just the beginning of a much larger fight? The room fell eerily silent, all eyes darting towards the windows. Emma's heart pounding in her chest, a wild drumbeat that matched the howling wind outside. The shadows seemed to deepen as a sense of urgency took hold. She shared glances with Mr. Hargrove, who appeared just as concerned. His expression hardened with worry. "Stay close, Mia," Emma whispered, the little girl burrowing tighter against her. The flickering candlelight created an atmosphere thick with anxiety. A second crash followed, louder and more menacing, causing the older folks to exchange fearful looks. "What was that?" someone murmured, disbelief laced in their voice. Emma felt the air grow heavy with dread, but she fought to maintain a brave face. "We need to find out," Jacob said, his youthful boldness shining through the fear that enveloped the room. "It might be something that needs our help. Let's check outside." "But it's dangerous out there," someone protested, the trepidation evident in their tone. "The more of us that go, the safer we'll be," Jacob insisted, rallying those close to him. Emma felt a flicker of admiration for the boy's courage, but worry gnawed at her insides. What if? "Jacob, it's too risky. We need to stick together in here," she said, her voice trembling. But the boy was undeterred. "We can't just ignore it. What if someone is in trouble? We have to be brave like Mr. Hargrove's knight." Emma swallowed hard. torn between wanting to protect her daughter and the bravery Jacob spoke of. She glanced down at Mia, whose wide eyes mirrored her own uncertainty. "What do you think, sweetheart? Do you want to stay here, or should we go together?" Mia hesitated, fiddling with her fingers. I don't want to leave you, Mommy. We will stick together. You can hold my hand tightly, okay?" Emma adjusted her hold on the girl, a decision forming within her. "Let's go, but we must stay close." As more people gathered around, she sensed a shift, an energy building fueled by communal strength. They moved towards the door, each soul carrying their own trepidations, but united by a sense of purpose. With a deep breath, Emma pushed the door open. The wind lashed at them immediately, twisting and roaring with wild abandon. Visibility was poor, the storm swirling around them like a gray vortex. "No!" a voice shouted above the howling. "Stay close!" They huddled together, eyes scanning the surroundings. Emma's heart raced as her gaze landed on a fallen tree branch sprawled across the path just outside the gathering hall. Her mind raced with thoughts. Had it struck something? Or someone? Then, breaking through the gusts, she saw a dark figure struggling beneath the branch. Adrenaline surged, and she felt a spark of determination. "There's someone over there!" she shouted, her voice fierce against the storm's roar. Jacob spearheaded the rush towards the fallen figure, supported by the adults who quickly gathered around. Emma's heart raced, but it wasn't entirely fear. It was hope, the kind that ignited amid desperate moments. They were a community, and together they could face anything. As they approached, another crack of thunder echoed, and suddenly the ground faltered beneath Emma's feet. A moment of chaos ensued. "Watch out!" she screamed, as a splintering branch snapped overhead, crashing down mere inches from where they stood. Panic rippled through the group. The storm was becoming more violent than they anticipated. Will they find the figure, or will the storm claim their fragile unity before they can act? Emma felt the weight of uncertainty press down on her, every heartbeat a reminder of the choices they must make. The time to act was now, but would they stand together or tear apart? Every second ticked by as another flash of lightning illuminated the night, revealing truths that would change everything. Would they be warriors against the tempest, or would the darkness of the storm swallow them whole? Emma's breath came in short gasps as everyone pressed forward against the relentless wind. The familiar faces in the crowd around her, filled with a mix of determination and fear, sparked something deep within her. She couldn't let her daughter see her worry, not when they faced something unknown. But with each thunderous crash, her heart sank a little more. As they edged closer to the figure, she tried to focus on the scene unfolding in front of her. Lightning flashed again, revealing the victim, a man, possibly in his 40s, pinned beneath the heavy branch, face pale and eyes wide with panic. Her heart raced. "Help us!" Jacob shouted, his voice cutting through the cacophony of the storm. He threw himself against the branch, but it barely shifted. Old Mr. Hargrove and a couple of other men moved to assist him, their strong arms struggling against the weight. "Be careful," Emma shouted. "It's too dangerous." Fear clawed at her throat, but the men pushed on, fueled by adrenaline. Each of them understood the risk, but the thought of leaving this man behind was even scarier. The wind howled so loud it was as if it had a life of its own, echoing their inner chaos. Emma looked at Mia, who clung to her side, eyes wide with fear. "You're doing great," she whispered, kneeling to meet her daughter's gaze. "Remember, we help when we can, but we also have to be safe." Trembling, Mia nodded but didn't let go of Emma's hand. In an urgent flurry, they tried lifting the branch again. Everything around them seemed to blur, the rain, the shouting, the storm. For a moment, Emma felt nothing except the raw desperation to save this stranger. Then, with a final, collective heave, the men moved the branch just enough for the man to wiggle free. His face, once strained with terror, softened into a look of gratitude and relief.
"Thank you," he gasped, breathless, collapsing onto the sodden ground. The crowd erupted into murmurs of relief and shouts of encouragement. But the storm answered back with a fierce gust, knocking several people off balance and drawing gasps. Emma's heart raced anew. They had saved one, but the danger was far from over. The ground underfoot shook with the threat of falling debris and the relentless fury of the storm. "Get inside," Mr. Hargrove's voice boomed, rallying everyone to retreat, now. Emma felt her feet moving, leading Mia and a few others back towards the safety of the gathering hall. The chaos swirled around them, the wind howling, the branches snapping, the rain beating down as if to drown their hope. As they reached the door, Emma turned for one last glance, a flash of lightning illuminating the breathing man now sitting on the ground, his expression lost between gratitude and terror. What had they done? Had they saved him from the storm, or merely added to their own peril by stepping into its grasp? She felt the weight of the questions pressing on her, merging with the heaviness of the storm. Inside, the candlelight flickered uncertainly. They were safe, for now. But as the wind continued to howl outside, Emma could sense the storm was just warming up. The tales they told would go beyond mere survival. This storm would test the very fabric of their ties, and she knew that decisions made in moments of fear would ripple across their lives. In the electrified air, something shifted. Would the man's survival spark hope or bring them deeper into distress? As the flickering light danced around the room, Emma clutched Mia's hand tighter, wondering what the next wave of the storm would bring. Secrets were lurking just beyond the door, and she had a feeling they wouldn't emerge unscathed. The pounding rain outside felt almost like a heartbeat, echoing the anxiety swelling within the gathering hall. Emma's eyes darted around the room, taking in the faces of their community. Some were pale, clutching each other, while others kept glancing nervously at the door, as if expecting a deluge of more troubles to sweep through with the storm winds. She knelt down to Mia, who had begun to tremble, her little fingers digging into Emma's arm like a lifeline. "Let's find a safe spot to sit, okay?" Emma said softly, hoping to imbue her voice with a sense of calm that she didn't quite feel. They found a corner near the candlelight, surrounded by a few other families trying to keep together. "What if it gets worse, Mom?" Mia whispered, her voice barely above the storm's fury. Emma pulled her close, wrapping her arms around her. "We're all together, and we'll look out for each other. That's what matters." But even as she spoke, doubt joined the rain, filling her heart with uncertainty. She looked over at the man they had rescued, now seated in the middle of the hall with a blanket wrapped around his shoulders, still catching his breath. "Are you okay?" Jacob asked as he approached the stranger. The man nodded, his grateful expression still lingering, though shadows of fear mirrored behind his deep-set eyes. I think so," he stammered, "but I don't know what happens next. The way the storm's raging, it feels like it's alive." Emma exchanged glances with Jacob. The storm was a fierce beast tonight, a force that deepened their insecurities and choices. Standing, Jacob turned to everyone in the room. "We need a plan. We can't be caught off guard if things get worse." "Like how?" someone shouted from the back, voice rising above the noise. "What if the roof?" "People need to know what to do," Jacob continued, raising his hands in an effort to calm the growing anxiety. "Listen, we need to stay strong. If we work together, we'll make it through." As the group murmured agreement, Emma held on to Mia tightly. She wanted to believe in Jacob's words, but the other side of her heart whispered darker thoughts. The man they had saved had brought something with him. What if they couldn't hold the flood of anxiety at bay? Then, amid the chatter of worry, a small child's voice cut through. "What if we tell stories?" The suggestion came from a girl sitting a few spots away, clutching a worn-out stuffed bear. Slowly, the murmurs in the room began to dissipate as curious heads turned toward her. "Stories?" Emma echoed, intrigued. "Yeah, stories keep you warm," the girl continued. "Like brave knights or magical adventures. We could tell the best stories and make everyone feel strong. Emma's heart twisted at the innocence of the idea. It was true. Stories had a unique power. Stories could weave hope into dark moments. "That's a great idea," she found herself saying, her voice gaining strength. She could feel the energy shift in the room, even if just a bit, a flicker of encouragement lighting up the gloom. And just like that, the conversations began again, this time more focused, ideas bubbling forth like water breaking free of a dam. Bowls of mashed potatoes were shared around, and laughter followed with lines of epic tales, not just their own, but stories passed down. They didn't just share the weight of the storm, they leaned into the vivid fabric of their community. Yet in the back of her mind, Emma still felt the shadow lingering. They could not entirely banish the storm, or what it might bring. As Mia turned to listen to the stories, Emma quietly pondered the man. Had they truly saved him, or just delayed a greater chaos? The flickering light of the candles seemed to dim just a little more with that thought. In the midst of the community's laughter, Emma felt a shift in the atmosphere, an unsettling anticipation. What if this storm was only just beginning to unravel the secrets that had been buried deep among them? The door creaked, and everyone turned, as a gust of wind burst in, threatening to extinguish their tiny flames of hope. The moment felt charged. What were they about to face next? The gust of wind swept through the hall, sending a shiver down Emma's spine. The flickering candles danced erratically, as if trying to fight against the advancing darkness. Faces turned pale, eyes wide with fear. Mia clutched tighter to Emma, her small body trembling. The room fell silent. For a heartbeat, they all waited, breath caught in their throats, anticipating what that door might reveal. Emma's pulse raced in sync with the howling wind, her heart whispering warnings. Was it merely the storm, or something else entirely that threatened them? Jacob stepped forward, his posture strong, though Emma could see the unease etched across his brow. "Stay calm, everyone. It's just the wind. We've faced storms before," he called out, though the quiver in his voice betrayed him. "Jacob's right," Emma chimed in, finding her own voice despite the dread. "We need to hold on to each other. We can't let fear take control." Just then, the door creaked open wider, and a figure emerged, outlined against the chaotic backdrop of rain. It was the man they had saved, his face stark against the dim hall. He moved with an urgency that sparked the crowd's curiosity. I need to warn you all," he exclaimed, his breath ragged. The energy in the room shifted immediately, tension thickening the air. The storm isn't normal. There's something more. Whispers flitted through the crowd, igniting their uncertainty. "What do you mean?" asked a woman from the back, her voice shaky. "What's really happening out there?" "They're coming," he said, barely able to get the words out. "I saw them, people, twisted by the storm, lost in the winds. They're drawn to fear, growing stronger." Emma's heart skittered at the implication. What could that mean? Mia squeezed her hand, looking up with wide, innocent eyes. "Mom, what does he mean?" "Just stories, sweetie," Emma said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Sometimes fear can cloud our minds, but we have each other." "Listen," Jacob shouted, cutting through the rising murmur. "If there's truth to what you're saying, we need a plan. We can't let fear dictate our night." "I don't know," the man replied, hands trembling. "They sense the gloom. You need to—" His words stumbled, faltering in the rising anxiety. Emma felt a weight building in her chest. What if he was telling a dark truth? What if the storm had awakened something even more sinister? With determination, Emma stepped into the center of the room. "We need to join together. Whatever's out there, we face it as a community. We are stronger when we unite." She hoped to instill courage, and most parents nodded, bolstered by her conviction. The man looked at her, seeing the spark of hope flickering amidst despair. "Then let's gather everything. Tools, food, supplies. If it gets worse, we can't be unprepared." People started to scatter, voices rising in urgency as they rallied together. Jacob began organizing groups, instructing others on what needed to be done. Emma held Mia close, her heart racing alongside the whirlwind of alliances forming before her. As families sprang into action, sharing their fears and courage intertwined, the hall transformed from despair to a beacon of mutual strength. But as the preparations continued, an unsettling thought gnawed at Emma. What if these people, twisted by fear and storm, were only the beginning? What if the bonds forged tonight would be tested beyond imagination? As the sound of thunder roared outside, shaking the hall, Emma knew one thing. Tonight, the storm held more than rain. It carried secrets, and those secrets were waiting to unleash themselves. What's really out there, she thought, staring at the battered door, bracing for what might come next. And as the wind howled louder, she felt it, an ominous whispering among the raindrops. What force was gathering, lurking beyond the threshold of their fragile sanctuary? The air in the hall grew heavy as the storm raged outside. Emma's thoughts raced, fueled by a mix of dread and determination. As families gathered supplies, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting, not just in nature, but within the very heart of the community itself. Mia, still clamped to her side, stared up at her mother, searching for reassurance. Emma squeezed Mia's hand tightly. "We're all going to be okay, I promise," she whispered, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her own uncertainty. Across the room, Jacob was barking orders, organizing teams to check the windows, find flashlights, and ensure everyone had a safe place to sleep. Emma admired his resolve, even in the face of uncertainty. It reminded her of why they chose to stay in this town, to build a life, a community, a family. But just as they began to feel a sense of purpose, an unexpected noise rattled the hall. A loud crash echoed from the wing of the building. The sound twisted Emma's insides, fear clawed at her throat. "Stay close to me, Mia," Emma instructed, her voice a fierce whisper. She edged toward the source of the noise, her heart hammering in her chest, each thump a reminder that they were in this together. With a trembling breath, they approached the hallway leading to the back rooms. The darkness loomed, and Emma clutched Mia tighter. "Don't be afraid," she whispered, but she wasn't sure if it was for Mia or for herself. They turned the corner and found Jacob inspecting what was left of a toppled bookshelf. Books were strewn across the floor, pages fluttering like fallen leaves. Jacob, his brow furrowed, was scanning the area when he noticed them. "Are you okay? Did you hear that?" Emma nodded, her apprehension spilling out in a shaky breath. "What happened?" "There was something. I think it might have been the wind," he replied, attempting to sound more confident than he felt. But as he spoke, Emma caught a glimpse of movement outside through the cracked window. Shadows danced wildly in the torrential rain, twisting and turning, almost human in form. A surge of panic gripped her. "Jacob, look!" she gasped, pointing toward the window. The figures crawled closer, wisps of darkness entwined with the storm. They were real. He followed her gaze, a hard reality settling in his expression. He turned back toward the crowd gathered for refuge, now too caught up in fear to assist them with preparations. Jacob took a deep breath, summoning authority. "Everyone, grab what you can and get back here." Emma turned back to Mia, her heart racing. "We need to—" "Be brave, sweetie." Mia's eyes were wide, still innocent, but filled with questions that Emma didn't have the answers to. Then, as if sensing the impending danger, the man they had rescued earlier entered the room again, his face ashen. "They're coming faster," he said breathlessly. "The storm is calling them. We cannot fight what thrives on fear." Emma felt the floor shift beneath her, a wave of despair threatening to wash over her. But deep down, amidst the chaos, she felt something else, a spark. They could fight together. "Then we do fight," Emma said, her voice rising above the growing murmurs of doubt. "We face them together, as a family." The words ignited a flicker of hope, a rallying cry surfacing from the murmurs of fear. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped. What had begun as a storm of the natural world had transformed into something unfathomable, and the darkness pressing against the door grew heavier. Emma took a step forward, determination reignited within her. We need to lock the doors, create a safe space. We can do this. But inside, she wondered if that was enough. As they rushed to secure the hall, the wind howled like a freight train, and the shadows murmured against the wooden structure. What would they find on the other side? Would they rise together, or would they succumb to the darkness that threatened to engulf them all? In Emma's heart, a single question burned brighter than the rest. Would courage outweigh their fears when dawn broke? As the shadows came closer, she braced, readying herself not just for a fight, but to uncover the true power of community in the face of despair. And just as Mia turned and asked, "Mom, are we going to be okay?" the door shuddered violently, as if something or someone was trying to break through. The door shuddered again, slamming against the wall with a force that sent a ripple through the crowd. Emma's heart leaped into her throat. She instinctively stepped in front of Mia, shielding her with her body. Behind her, she could hear people whispering, fear creeping into their voices like a slow poison. "Stay calm," Jacob barked, his command ringing in Emma's ears. "We need to secure the perimeter." His face had drained of color, but his resolve only tightened. Emma glanced back at him, noting the sweat beading on his brow. She couldn't allow panic to engulf them, not now. "Jacob, we must block the door," she urged, her voice trembling slightly. She signaled to a few of the older teenagers nearby, and they rushed to help push furniture against the door. "Mom, what's happening?" Mia's small voice quivered beside her, eyes darting between Emma and the looming shadows outside. "It's just the wind, honey," Emma said, hoping to fill her words with the strength she was trying to grasp herself. But as the lights flickered ominously, she could see Mia's growing fear, tangled with confusion and uncertainty. The man they had rescued stepped closer. "I've seen this before," he said,
his breaths coming in quick gasps. "Those aren't just shadows. They're drawn to fear. If we let it in, we could lose everything." His eyes shifted to the door, where the shifting dark shapes were almost clawing at the entrance, eager and relentless. Jacob's voice cut through the tension again. "We need lights, flashlights, anything." He turned to Emma, his expression fierce. "If we can illuminate this place, we might stand a chance." "Right," Emma nodded, collecting her thoughts amidst the whirlwind. "Come on, everyone, let's find the flashlights." She pushed through the growing crowd, shouting out instructions. Each nervous face she passed fueled her urgency. Mia followed closely, her grip tightening on Emma's hand. They rummaged through bags and scattered supplies, pulling out emergency kits, sincere offerings from fear-stricken neighbors who worked hard to gather anything useful. Finally, someone shouted they had found a flashlight. Emma's heart soared as it flickered to life, piercing through the thickening darkness. With each beam cast around the room, more flickers of light blossomed. The shadows hesitated, retreating slightly at the warm glow. "Keep them up," Jacob ordered, urging the crowd to aim their lights toward the door. The impacts of fear and solidarity pressed down upon them, and for one moment it felt as if together they could drive back the gnawing viciousness outside. But as the shadows lingered, Emma felt a deeper dread rise. The flickering light revealed fleeting images of oddly shaped, almost human-like figures running and darting outside. They weren't looking for a way in. Something within them sensed fear and pain, twisting their forms into nightmares. Then, with another haunting howl from the wind swirling against the building, the door gave a violent shudder, just as the lights flickered dimly again, casting an ominous shadow across Emma's face. "Mia, cover your eyes!" Emma cried out, and instinctively she tugged her daughter behind her. In that instant, the flashes stuttered, and the shadows surged forward, sudden and wild. They poured around the edges of the reinforced door, creeping in through the gaps, dark tendrils of terror searching for the warm remains of hope within.
"Resist!" the man cried, lifting his own flashlight, illuminating the shadows bending toward the light. "They feed on your fear. Stand together." Emma felt her fear shift into something solid, something raw and fierce. She gritted her teeth and raised her flashlight high, emboldened by the faces around her, united in their resolve. "Let them see us. This is our space. This is our fight," Emma shouted, directing her voice into the swirling darkness. Just as the shadows tensed, seeming ready to explode inward, Mia pulled at her sleeve, wide-eyed. "Mom, look!" To Emma's shock, the storm outside began to shift, wild flashes of lightning illuminating shapes in the distance. A figure stood among the howling winds, framed against the storm. But was it a friend or foe? Fear clawed at Emma's throat again. What now? She focused on the figure, breathing in deeply, ready for whatever would come next. Would they fight for their home?
Retreat into despair? The answer hung in the balance. The figure emerged slowly from the raging storm, its outline shifting as the wind howled. Emma's heart raced, but she couldn't let fear snatch away her strength. The crowd around her held their breath, every eye locked on the shadowy form. "Stay strong," she whispered to Mia, who clutched her hand even tighter. "We are together." The figure stepped closer, rain-soaked and determined, finally revealing itself in the flickering candlelight. It was a woman, cheeks flushed with exertion, hair flying wildly. A collective sigh escaped the crowd as they recognized Judith, the town's librarian, known for her warmth and wisdom. The sight brought a flicker of hope, a beacon amidst the storm. "I heard you all," Judith shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I felt fear after fear, but we are more than fear. We're Maplewood." Energy swelled as voices joined hers, echoing her message. Each word pulled them from the clutches of panic, uniting them against the encroaching darkness. "Together!" Emma called out, summoning the courage that had emerged in their truest moment of need. "Let's remind ourselves of who we are. Let's tell our stories." Lifting her flashlight high, she encouraged others to do the same. As Emma began to recount her own story, the love, the loss, every heartwarming meal her grandmother had shared, the glow of their flashlights illuminated the room and pushed against the shadows. The figures outside shrank back. Judith stepped forward, urging the next voice. "Let's keep this going," she prompted, her gaze firm but encouraging. One by one, faces that moments ago seemed weary and despondent lit up with resolve. They shared stories of resilience, of courage in battle, and love that knew no bounds, filling the air like warm blankets against the chill. Laughter erupted from uncertain smiles as old tales mixed with new hopes. Outside, the malevolent shadows hissed and swirled, thwarted by the strength emanating from within. They could feel the tension shift as the people of Maplewood reclaimed their space, their values woven together with love and vulnerability. Emma could sense the emerging bond, an unbreakable aura encasing them. But just as they found strength, a sudden gust tore through the hall, slamming the door open wide. Panic surged again, and Emma felt her heart pound. As they huddled closer together, the shadows fought back, drawing closer, thriving on fear. "Not today!" Jacob shouted, positioning himself at the entrance, flashlight flickering with new vigor. "We hold this line. Our fear won't control us." Emma watched as the shadows hesitated, an internal battle mirrored in their swirling forms. "This is our home," Emma shouted again, dragging out her words. "Our community. We fight with love." The group responded, voices melding, rising to a crescendo of solidarity that pierced the malevolent storm outside. Light exploded from their hearts, driving back the darkness, revealing their community in fiery passion. "All together now," Judith called, her own voice weaving through the air like an anchor. On the count of 3, shout, "Out our names! Maplewood on 3! 1, 2, 3!"
A chorus of voices slammed against the walls, vibrantly echoing their existence and resolve. Maplewood! The shadows let out a shriek, recoiling as if struck by a light too bright to withstand. Thunder rumbled in the distance, but within the hall, the laughter and strength of their voices surged onward. Emma felt the warmth envelop her, and for a moment the storm outside shrank away, lulled to silence by the power of community healing. Mia laughed. "We did it, Mommy! We helped!" "Yes," Emma replied, tears of joy brimming in her eyes as she embraced her daughter. She looked around, meeting the eyes of her neighbors, faces no longer fearful but illuminated with kindness and shared spirit. They had faced the storm together, not just finding strength, but uncovering an unbreakable bond that would endure far past the cold nights. As the wind began to calm outside, they stood together, hand in hand, knowing that true warmth comes from connection, and that sometimes even the fiercest storms can bring people together. "Let's keep this going," Jacob shouted, enthusiasm bouncing from wall to wall. "We have stories to share, laughter to keep us warm. Let's never forget this night." Emma beamed, knowing they would carry this change into tomorrow, letting it transform every part of their lives in Maplewood. They didn't just survive the storm, they became a family, stronger and brighter than any darkness outside. Together, they stepped into the new dawn, a community reborn. Now this is your moment. Do not wait even one more second. You need to subscribe to the channel now to catch every exclusive story that will inspire you. Leave a like to boost the algorithm and show your support. Comment below and share your feelings about this ending, because I want to hear from you. And share this video with at least 5 friends who truly need to see this transformation and feel the power of community. Your actions mean everything, and only true fans understand the importance of standing together.